All right, awesome. So this is going to be about 45 minutes. It shouldn't be too long. I'm really excited for today. If you have any questions throughout, you're welcome to put them in chat or unmute yourself. Otherwise, we'll have time at the end for a Q&A. If you want coaching on anything, anything you want to say for the end that's a little longer, we can do then. And I am doing a coaching giveaway for 2 free sessions. So hopefully some other people will join. Otherwise, it's going to be a close tie between John and Kelsey. But yeah, so we'll begin in just a minute. All right, so we are going to start today. And so this whole thing is about how to figure out your hunger and fullness. So you are in the right place here today. If you feel confused, lost, or frustrated with how to eat, if you are overeating or binge eating or both, if you want to figure out your body's signals in 3 simple steps, that is what we are going to be covering. So the problem that we are dealing with is this question of how am I supposed to listen to my body when I have no idea what my hunger and fullness even sounds like. So this was definitely something I dealt with for a while. I kept seeing on Instagram, as you probably see too, people saying, let's just listen to your body, just tune in, eat intuitively. But if you don't actually know what your hunger and fullness sounds like, it's really hard to do that. So maybe you're either lying on the spectrum of constantly being starving and then going to the other side and being stuffed, which feels awful. There's no middle ground. Or maybe you are really disconnected from your body. You just feel scared to trust it. You might feel like you need to rely on calorie counts, diets, certain food rules in order to make the right choices around food. And you probably want to leave all of this behind and eat this more intuitively approach where hunger and fullness are effortless and food is just not a big deal, but you're probably confused on what to do to get there. Hi, Cassandra. All right, so I am Amber. I am a binge eating and overeating coach who helps people feel normal around food. And I have been there. I get it. I was a serial calorie counter for many years. I relied on only MyFitnessPal to tell me what to eat, how much to eat. And I spent a lot of time doing that before I was able to lean into trusting my body. So it took me a long time, primarily because if you're binge eating and overeating, you have a lot of fear around, well, my body's not going to know what to do. And I know that's definitely something that I dealt with, is just you don't trust your body at that point because it's doing everything you don't want it to do. So in my journey, I kind of read all the books, articles, podcast therapy, but nothing really started working for me until I got coaching, and it completely changed my life that I decided to become a coach because I knew that people needed to hear the same solutions that I found. So now I can travel without fear. Here's me in Barcelona with an Aperol Spritz. I can go to restaurants and I know I don't have this fear of gaining weight because I know I'm going to eat exactly what my body needs. And ultimately, life and food is just easy, and that's how it should be. So why might you not hear your hunger and fullness signals? There's a few reasons. One, you might be using external rules. So if you're using external rules, this looks like relying on the calorie counts, diets, meal plans, and what you're doing is using another person's idea of what they think you should be eating to guide your own body. So when you're doing this, it teaches yourself to ignore what's happening on the inside and pay attention to everything else outside of you, which is not how our body's going to function properly. And ultimately, no matter how good another person's meal plan or diet is, it's not what your body needs because all of our bodies are unique. So the second thing that might be happening that kind of goes along with this is you're frequently ignoring your signals. So if you feel like you just don't hear your signals, they're very mute, but you've been on these diets, these calorie counts, chances are you have just tuned out for them for so long that your body has stopped sending you these signals. So this also happens if you are binge eating and under eating, like binge eating, restricting, overeating, like going to the extremes on the hunger and fullness side, because every time you do that, your body is sending you a clear signal. Hey, we're full. Like, even if it might seem quiet, it is sending you a signal, and you're basically telling yourself that signal doesn't matter. That's not important. And so over time, your body just mutes those signals a little bit. So they're a little bit quieter and harder to hear. Then you might have caffeine as something that's affecting your hunger and fullness. And these last three are something that people don't really consider that much as an option of like something that might be affecting your hunger and fullness. But if you're having more than like 1 cup of coffee, I say, in the morning, that definitely has a hunger suppressing effect. And you might be thinking, well, that's exactly what I want. I would love to have my hunger suppressed. But then what happens is you might actually need food and you don't recognize that. You don't hear that signal. So then as the day goes on, you're going to get to the end of the day and your body checks in and realizes it hasn't had enough food. So it's going to send out these strong signals and urges to eat. So if you're dealing with a lot of nighttime eating, a lot of nighttime cravings, take a look at maybe if you're consuming a lot of caffeine throughout the day, because then you might be missing those hunger signals that are telling you that you need more food earlier on. The fourth one is if you're snacking all day. So when we snack, we get to this very neutral level of fullness. And I actually forgot, I'm going to put a worksheet in the chat if you guys want to see. Although, here we go. Let me see here. And I'm going to put the worksheet in the replay too. This will be in the email. But the worksheet has a hunger scale on it, and that talks about what level of hunger you are throughout the day. And when we snack, we tend to be at a level 5, which is right in the middle. It gets us to this very neutral point where we're not hungry and not full. And if we're snacking all day, we stay at this neutral point and we're not allowing our body to get to the point where it wants to send out that hunger signal. And we're not getting to the point of fullness because it's not enough food. So we don't really get that satisfaction signal either. We're just kind of cruising on this middle line the whole time. Then the final thing, there are other factors, but these are the 5 I see most often. And the final thing is chronic stress. So if you have a big life event that happens, a death, a breakup, a really stressful time at your job, all of these are things your brain wants to focus on solving, right? Or big emotions are coming up. It takes the priority in what is happening in your brain and body. And so your digestion is going to shut down and it doesn't seem as important for your body to deal with. So if you're chronically stressed out, that also can mute your hunger and fullness signals. So why is it so important for you to figure this out? Why can't we just go having diets and meal plans and calorie counts our whole life? And if we don't figure this out, what happens is we're going to erode the trust with ourselves from continuing ignoring our body. We might gain weight after frequent overeating and binge eating. You're going to be scared to go out to eat and travel because you don't know how to eat and you're confused and you're frustrated. You're going to feel uncomfortable in your body because every time we're overeating or binge eating, it's going to have a physical effect in our body, and that's oftentimes very uncomfortable. And ultimately, you're just going to continue in this abusive relationship with food. And I know abuse is kind of a strong word, but ultimately, especially when we're binge eating, like we are physically hurting our bodies, and that is the definition of abuse, and we're doing it to ourselves. So it does create this kind of abusive relationship with it. So the things you might have tried instead of listening to your body, as I've mentioned, are counting calories, seeing if some other calorie counts can know how much you need. And if you're like me, what would happen is maybe you'd get your calorie count of, 1,789 calories for the day, which is so silly because how could we ever need that much exact calories every single day, day in and out? But then maybe some days you wouldn't need that much food and you'd be less hungry, but you'd say, well, I still have 200 calories for the day, like let's eat. Or you get to the end of the day and you're still really hungry, but you don't have enough calories left. So then you feel guilty when you do eat, and then you might go way over. Then maybe you've tried meal plans. So if you do a meal plan, something that tells you like when to eat, exactly how much to eat. The problem with this is that it doesn't tell you how to follow it. And this is the same thing with counting calories, is you can have like the best meal plan in the world, like built by a nutritionist, customized to your body. But if you don't have the mindset skills to stick to it and enjoy it, it's not going to last. The last thing you might have tried is what I call Instagram intuitive eating. And Instagram intuitive eating is when you're trying to do intuitive eating, but you actually have no idea what to do. You've just seen a few posts on it. You think, I'm going to try listening to my body, but you don't have very much guidance on exactly what to do. And the problem is if you've spent years ignoring your body signals, and then you try to all of a sudden one day, like get rid of all your calories and meal plans and points and just like listen to your body, you don't have a very good awareness of what's happening internally. So when you try this, it's kind of bound to fail, like I said, because of the lack of guidance and because you've been ignoring your signals for so long that they're just not really there very strongly. So I now have 3 simple steps for you to learn when you're hungry and full. So I have a picture of a baby up here because we are all born knowing exactly how to listen to our hunger and fullness. And it's something that doesn't need to be learned. We might need to relearn it and reteach it to ourselves, but that knowledge is already in us. And we know if you try to feed a baby a bottle when it's full, like it will refuse it. And if it's hungry, it's going to keep crying until it gets its bottle. So it knows exactly what it needs. And that knowledge is still in you. It doesn't go away. It just needs to be rediscovered. Some people think that their body just like wants to be fat and their body just wants to gain weight. It just wants to overeat. But if you think about from a survival perspective, even then our bodies still want to be at this like naturally lean weight, because if you were really obese throughout your whole time, like you wouldn't be able to run away from the lion, tigers, and bears. You wouldn't be able to run and hunt and climb. Like you wouldn't be able to do all these things that you can do when you are in a little bit of a leaner body. But on the other side, we also don't want to be too lean because then our body will kind of freak out and we want to have a little bit on us for survival purposes. So it is favorable for us to be listening to our hunger and fullness, and they have a purpose and they are there for us to lean into and honor. So my first step for this is to create a regular meal schedule. What this looks like and what I encourage my clients to do is to have breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and maybe a snack or two if necessary. And there's a few reasons why this works. The first is that it can help prevent binge eating. So when you get to the end of the day and you haven't had enough food, your brain is going to send out biological urges to eat. And we have 2 types of urges. We have biological urges and habitual urges. And my last masterclass was on habitual urges. So if you want that, I will send that to you. But today we're going to be kind of talking more of like the biological side. And when we get to the end of the day, we haven't had enough food. Our body checks in and is like, oh, you've only had 600 calories today. We need a lot more than that to just maintain daily function. And so it's going to send out these strong urges to eat. And the biological urges are really hard to overcome because they are part of our biology. They're trying to help us survive. So we want to eliminate those as best we can. And I just find that just having breakfast, lunch, and dinner, like 1, super easy because that's just what society does. But 2, it's usually a good amount to like ensure that you're at your baseline amount of calories for the day. Then also creating a regular meal schedule will help regulate your hunger hormones. So when we are having a lot of binges and a lot of restriction involved too, it really throws off what's happening in our body with our hunger and fullness, and it's hard to rely on it. So we want to get in this regular meal schedule because that will regulate our leptin and ghrelin and make them more stable, consistent, predictable, and reliable. And ultimately, if you don't know like how much food you should be eating, just take a guess, like just look to other people and see like about how much they're eating. And that will be a general estimate that you can use. And then finally, having a regular meal schedule fosters an abundance mindset around food. So it is so helpful for you psychologically to know that you are getting to eat in just a few hours, like guaranteed, because a lot of us are in the scarcity mindset where we know logically, like there's going to be more food around, but because we've restricted so much in the past, we don't really trust ourselves that like, if I'm really hungry in a few hours, I'm going to give myself food, or um, I don't trust I'm going to give myself food I'm going to like. So when you do this, you have this regular meal schedule. It can be really helpful because this food is not going anywhere. And for sure it's not going anywhere because you promised to yourself you're going to start having breakfast, lunch, and dinner every day. So at the end of the night, you're not telling yourself you're going to fast for 12 hours the next day. You're telling yourself, right when I wake up, I can have breakfast. And that can just be so helpful to eliminate kind of like the eating where it's like, I need to get it all right now. So I'll give you guys a few minutes to do this prompt. So the first step is to evaluate. So I want you to think about, this prompt is on the worksheet, but you can write in that worksheet or on a piece of paper, just what your current eating schedule is like, and if there's anything you'd like to change about it. All right, we'll continue on, but feel free to continue thinking about that and seeing what you want to assess and making goals around that. So the second step is to do an hourly check-in. So this is involved with the Hunger and Fullness scale that's on the worksheet. And what we're going to do is every hour, we're going to put a number on our hunger. Where are we? And then you can also do this while you're eating, like halfway through my meal. Where am I on the hunger scale? How many more bites do I need to get to fullness, level 6? This is something that it's going to be temporary, but it's super helpful because it forces us to tune in when we normally would be zoned out. And it really helps create this awareness around what is happening in our body, like what physical sensations are going on, and increases our mindfulness throughout the day. So we have this reminder that like, this is something we're trying to do intentionally. We're trying to figure out our hunger and fullness. And so we want to make sure that we're taking the time and space to do this. So you can set a reminder on your phone or a timer saying every hour, just check in, where am I? And then even just doing this for a day can really help show you like how your hunger and fullness fluctuates throughout the day, and also what is happening physically in your body that's creating that. This is really important if you especially like are at work all day and you zone out and you don't really realize that you're hungry until like the way end of the day. And then all of a sudden you're super hungry. So maybe you're a 2 on the hunger scale, which is like really low. And then it's more likely that you're going to overeat after because you went to the other side. So we want to use this as a way to notice that our body is sending out signals that we're hungry earlier on, so we don't get down to that really low level of hunger because we're just zoned out, tuned out, working hard all day. We want to make sure we become aware of that. So you guys can put in the chat where you are right now. So I have the hunger scale up here. So put in the chat what number you are. Maybe you just say dinner, maybe you haven't eaten dinner, but this will help create some awareness. I'd say for me right now, I am a 6. You're at an 8. Kelsey had a big dinner. All good. Yummy, yummy. So I say we want to go from like a 3 to a 6. And again, this isn't something you're going to be perfect at. Like it's going to range. Sometimes we get a little too hungry. Sometimes we get a little too full. Melissa's at a 7. Mom made yummy soup. Yes. Yum. Love it. And, it's just something when we have it happen, we just notice like, oh, okay. Like, I'm feeling a little uncomfortable right now. Maybe that's something I want to learn from next time. And ultimately, like sometimes things just happen. Like maybe you had a sauce that you haven't had before and the sauce was a little more filling than you thought it was. And you're like, oh, I'm at an 8 right now. And you're just like, oh, okay, noted. I know that sauce fills me up a little bit more. So then you just move on and continue trying to do what feels best. So the third step is to lean into your trust. We want to find all the evidence that you can do this. because you have felt hunger and fullness before. And even if it was to the extremes, like maybe you just really only feel like you're starving or you're stuffed, you're still feeling something, and you can use those cues as a guess on what a mild level of hunger and fullness feel like. So you just want to think about not what all the things you don't know about your hunger and fullness, but all the things that you already do know, because chances are it's a lot more than you think. Then I always say that your body is the best, most accurate calorie counter you'll ever have. Our body knows what we need if we actually listen to it. But the problem is most people think it doesn't because they're not actually listening to it. So if you're frequently overeating, you're not listening to your body. So of course it's not going to be an accurate calorie counter, because your body's telling you, hello, I am full, please stop. And you say, no, this food is really good. I want to keep eating. I have an urge. I don't know how to handle this. I have really strong emotions coming up, like whatever it is. That is not listening to your body then. That is ignoring your body. So before you write off trusting your body, make sure that the times you have tried it before, you were actually listening and trusting it. Then when you're trusting your body, what's involved with that is making sure we have no judgment with what's coming up for us. So we might be hungry sometimes a lot earlier than we think we are, or have like a lot more hunger in the day than we normally do. And this happened to me the other day where it was like 11:30 and I am like, I am so ready for lunch. I normally don't have lunch till like 1:30, but I was like, well, here we are, need food. Okay. And we don't need to always investigate it a ton. Like it's good to get curious about it. Like maybe I had, a little less at breakfast, or maybe it was less calorie dense, or it didn't have protein or fiber. But ultimately, we just need to honor it. And so if we're hungry, we can eat. And the same thing goes with fullness and judging our fullness. So this might be common. You get halfway through your meal and you're like, well, I should be able to eat all of this. That's judging your fullness. That's like putting shoulds on it, which is not what's actually happening. Sometimes we just get full before we're finishing our meal. We don't judge it. We just honor it and we move on. So the third prompt is to trust. And these prompts are about thinking about when was the last time you felt nicely hungry and what did it feel like? And then what about gentle fullness? So going into the knowledge you already have about your hunger and fullness and what they feel like uniquely to you, because I put some guidelines on the hunger scale, but ultimately we're all a little different in where we feel hunger and where we feel fullness. And so it's good to just kind of look back on your experiences and see what you've noticed. And then also see if you noticed any resistance or fear around trusting your body. All right, we'll move on. So the main takeaway I want you guys to have from this is that your hunger and fullness signals are not broken. There's nothing wrong with you. We just need to tune back in, start listening again, and truly honoring what's coming up. It might take some practice, it might take some time, but it's still in there and it can come to you. So this is an example of something I do with my clients. And this is a client who was having a lot of afternoon snacks and she wanted coaching on it because she wasn't sure if she was actually hungry or not. And what we realized is that she was wanting to eat mainly because she was bored at work, and it wasn't true hunger and fullness, true hunger. And she wasn't getting to like her normal level of fullness. She was getting past that. So we got her back to the place where she was feeling good about her hunger and fullness. So she said, we talked through things last week, and just being aware has already fixed the excessive appetite issue. So that awareness piece is coming in. She was coming back to having the normal appetite for now, which was nice. She was satisfied by her meals, wasn't even eating all the stuff that she was bringing to work anymore. Whereas in the past, she would finish her whole lunchbox and still be hungry. So again, she might have thought like, oh, I'm listening to my body. But we realized that it was not true physical hunger. It was just this mental, emotional hunger. So she needed to readjust what her definition of listening to her body was, and realize that this afternoon snack actually wasn't physical hunger. It was more of an emotional thing from boredom. So if you want to go more in depth with not only knowing your hunger and fullness, but actually how to listen to them, This is exactly what I do in my Confident Eater program. It's a 6-month program giving you personalized coaching so you can stop overeating and binge eating for good. So if you're ready to make this full eating transformation, truly lean into your identity as becoming a confident eater, I would love to invite you into my one-on-one coaching program. This is going to be for you if you want this to be the last year of your life that you ever have to struggle with food. If you want to be able to go to happy hour without trying to be good and eat the boring food, or deciding to go all out, needing to unbutton your jeans, lie down. If you want to be confident at the swimming pool, with your kids, with your friends, at the beach. If you want to be a star example to either your kids or future kids about what a normal relationship with food in your body looks like. And if you want food to be the least important thing in your life, because you were meant for so much more than to be stressed all day about the binge you had on a sleeve of Oreos last night. So I have 6 pillars to food freedom, and we touched a little bit on the hunger and fullness one today. There is a lot more to hunger and fullness, but you guys got like a nice taste of what that looks like. But ultimately, we need all 6 of these pieces in order to get to a place of full food freedom. And I know this because these are the 6 pieces that I needed to have in my own journey. And that's how I've created this program, is looked at all the steps that I've needed to get to where I am today and put them into concrete steps to get you to the place where you want to be in a food freedom place. So I teach you about your thoughts, your emotions. We go through how to neutralize foods. I teach you a trigger food process with this, which is really fun to do. I have a few clients doing it right now. I teach you about a stress-free urge solution. So all the cravings, all the late night urges you're having, we talk through how to deal with them. Of course, hunger and fullness, going over confidence, not just in your body, but just in your whole self and how you show up in the world. And then what's really important to me is that you maintain progress. So we shift your whole identity so you don't identify as someone who struggles with food anymore, and you don't identify as someone who binge eats. And this was something that took a while for me to do, and I realized was a big missing puzzle piece in my journey, because even when you start changing the habits, if you don't change your identity, you're going to keep going back to those old habits anyways. So how it works is you're going to get weekly 1-hour video calls. So we're going to celebrate, learn, coach together. It's just you and I, personalized, private. You get unlimited text and voice message support in between calls. And yes, it's unlimited. I really want this to be a program where I'm here for you every step of the way. You don't have to be confused or lost. You know exactly what to do. And then you also get customized lessons and worksheets. So I know every one of you is unique, and we all need different things, and we all come from different dieting backgrounds and different histories, and we all have different habits. So I really make sure that whatever I give you is fit to you. We do have a general structure, but I want to make sure that you get everything you need for your unique situation. So the next steps are to click a link. I'll put a link for my consultation call, and you can pick a time to talk with me. Then we'll get on our consultation call. You'll get to know if the program is right for you. If you want to move forward with that, you'll begin your confident eater journey to becoming binge-free. So here is my Instagram, email, website. You can find me anywhere. You can scan this QR code and it brings up my scheduling page for a consultation call. We'll do a giveaway still. So I'm going to put your guys' names in and we'll see who wins 2 free calls with me. But if you have any other questions, you can let me know. So I'm just putting the names on a piece of paper, putting them in a box, just so you guys know how it's working. We'll put Cassandra in the giveaway too, because she rejoined. All right, and the winner is Cassandra. Cassandra, I will contact you with your free coaching sessions with me. All right, do you guys have any questions? All right. Well, if you guys have any questions, you guys can always find me on my Instagram, send me a message, a DM, let me know, and I am happy to answer any of them there. But with that, we'll wrap up. The replay will be sent out if you want to watch it again. And thank you guys so much for coming on today.